Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is like one of the first videos that I'm actually sitting down and filming, so I'm very excited for that. Today I'm going to be sharing my positive home birth, water birth, all that good stuff story. I hope that it gives somebody some inkling of positivity or just puts them in a good mindset for their own birth, or maybe if you've had a traumatic birth in the past, this can help you realize that your next one doesn't have to be that way. And yeah, I just hope I can give someone some positivity regarding the whole birth situation. And if you're planning a home birth or a water birth, anything like that, even better, because that's what I did and I loved it so much. So I'm going to share with you guys just kind of my story. Okay, so I first do want to share a tiny backstory with you guys. This is like story time, sit down with me, girl talk. It's not going to be super organized. It's just my thoughts. I don't have anything written down. And although I do remember the day like really well, it is also really blurry. So I'm going to try my best. But quick backstory. So my partner, Mike, who's also going to be on this channel, but I didn't feel needed to be here for this video. It probably just would have been like sitting here most of the time. He works Monday to Friday, you know, like most people. And it was a Wednesday when I gave birth to my daughter. And the day before, probably the week before that, he had been working out of town and out of cell phone service and no Wi-Fi, nothing. Like I had no way to get a hold of him. And I was like kind of nervous because at this point, I believe I was 38-ish weeks pregnant, 38, 39. So I was like, I could honestly have the baby any day. And if I go into labor, I don't have any way to contact you. So we kind of had a plan. I had the neighbor's phone number to the house that he was working at. And if something happened, I could call the neighbors and they would run over and get him. But it was still, you know, it's still kind of scary. Like, what if they don't answer? I can't contact him directly. So that was a little scary for me. But the Tuesday before I gave birth, so I gave birth on a Wednesday, the Tuesday before, I don't even remember the exact situation, but I remember begging him not to go to work. I was like, please don't go to work today. Like, it's so nice out. It was like the middle of August. It's so nice out. Let's go to the beach. Like, you know, just say no to work today. Don't go in, call in sick, whatever. Like, let's hang out. We're going to have a baby soon. Let's spend this time together. And he was like usually I feel like if I really tried to convince him, I could maybe convince him to take a day off here or there. But he was like, no, I have to get this house done so that I'm done and I can be in cell phone service in case something happens. And so I was like kind of mad at him that day, a little bit upset, but he ended up going to work that day, and it's a good thing he did, because the next day I ended up going into labor first thing in the morning. So yeah, a little backstory for you guys. Sometimes your intuition just knows best, and maybe daddy's intuition knows a little better than mommy's intuition sometimes. So then Wednesday comes around, the next day, and he ended up having that day off because he finished the house and the next one wasn't quite ready for him yet. So he ended up having that Wednesday off. It's like it was all just meant to be this way. It's so crazy how these things happen. So Wednesday, August 7th, we woke up, and I think we woke up at like 8 or something. And I remember feeling like I was gonna get my period. Like I had cramps, like really bad, not really bad, but like I had cramps, like, you know, when you have like bad period cramps, it was like that. And I was like, oh, this is kind of strange. I'd heard that sometimes that could be like the early stages of labor. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm in early labor. Like you can be in early labor for quite a while. So I didn't really think much of it. We ate a big breakfast, like a good breakfast, which was really smart for later on in the story. And then I remember kind of feeling like my cramps were coming and going a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is kind of strange. Maybe I think I was texting my friends and asking them like, what do I do? What do I do? And I ended up downloading a contraction timer just because like I was pretty sure it was nothing, but I just wanted to time them just to make sure that they weren't coming in any kind of pattern or rhythm or anything. So I downloaded, like, you know, the contraction timer app, one of the ones at the App Store, and I started timing them, and I think it was around 10 o'clock a.m. that I noticed that they were getting to be more painful, like pretty painful and quite patterned. Like they were coming like 3 to 4 minutes apart and they were lasting 40 seconds every single time. So it's like, okay, this is definitely a pattern. I was telling Mike, I was like, we should call the midwives and just let them know that something might be happening. And I got this question a lot. Yes, I was planning a home birth, so it was all in the plan, and the midwives knew to come to my house, and that was all good. I live about 15 minutes from the hospital, so like if I had to transfer, it was all good. I'll talk a little bit more about my mindset after, but yeah, the midwives were planning to come to my house, so that was all part of the plan. It wasn't like a surprise home birth, just so you guys know. So we ended up calling the midwives, and I called and I was talking to them, and then I started getting a contraction, which was a contraction. I thought it was just cramps at the time, and I like could not talk. I was like, I had to pass the phone over to Mike. I remember being like, again, talk to her. So I passed the phone over, and the midwives were kind of just asking how I was doing, and they were saying like, well, if she can't talk, like that's kind of like one of the first signs of, okay, you're having contractions, like something's going on. So he was like, yeah, she can't talk, like she's not okay right now. So they basically were like, okay, have a bath, see if things kind of settle down a little bit, just relax and call us in a couple hours and let us know what's going on. So I had a bath and it was really, really, really nice. I put on some Bob Marley, I lit some candles. I just like tried to relax my mind, relax my body. I was still getting the contractions, but they definitely weren't as bad in the bath. And then when I got out of the bath, it was quite bad. I ended up going and sitting on the couch in my towel, and I could not deal with life. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not, like I'm in labor, like I am in labor right now, it's happening. So we called the midwives again to tell them like, okay, we think it's really happening now, like maybe you should come out and check us and see what's going on and make sure it's all good. And so they're like, okay, we'll come out, we'll be there in half an hour or something. And I also called my sister, who I had planned to be at my birth as well, and she was like, okay, I'm on my way. So the midwives got here, and I think when they got here, I had migrated myself to my bedroom, and I was like laying on my bed just in the fetal position and just having contractions. And they got there and they're like, okay, we're gonna check you. And this was my first check that I'd ever had. I didn't have any throughout my whole pregnancy. I just decided not to, I just decided not to. So this was my first check. I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm ready. And she checked me, and I was all feeling like I was definitely at least 6 centimeters, just because I was in quite a lot of pain and the contractions were coming quickly and like back to back to back. And she told me I was 3 centimeters. I was like, oh, okay. Try not to show the discouragement on my face. I can still do this. So 3 centimeters, as most of you probably know, you have to be 10 centimeters to start pushing your baby out. So that's kind of like the goal, is to get to 10 centimeters. And they say it gets more intense as you keep going from 0 centimeters to 10 centimeters. So I was like, okay, I'm not even halfway. I can do this. So at this point, they were like, yeah, you're only 3 centimeters. Like, we're gonna go and then come back in a couple hours and check you again. Call us if anything changes, if anything gets worse, if anything funny happens. So we're like, okay. So this time between when they left and when they came back, I pretty much think I was just on the bed the whole time, just in the fetal position. Mike was there, probably rubbing my back. This part is where it gets a little blurry. My sister was there. I remember my sister like forcing me to drink coconut water and trying to get me to eat food and all that stuff. So they came back 2 hours later. We didn't end up calling them. We just kind of let things happen and progress. They came back 2 hours later, and they checked me. They wanted to check me again to see if I'd made any progress. And I was like, okay, I better have made progress. Like, this is where it starts to get a little discouraging when you're like not where you thought you'd be. But I just was going with the flow and just trying to focus on the end goal, get the baby out. So they checked me again, and I was 5.5 centimeters, and I was like, okay, that's I'm halfway. We're good. We're doing good. Like, progress is happening. I think the biggest thing in my head with having a home birth and just having a birth in general is like progress, because if things don't move along, that's when you have to start kind of like intervening and maybe talking about other options. So my only goal with this whole thing was just to keep things moving along and just keep myself relaxed and let my body do its thing, because your body knows exactly exactly what to do. So 5.5 was better than 3. So I was like, okay, we can do this. So it was probably about 2 hours later that they suggested me to get into the birthing pool if I wanted to. And I was so excited but to get into that warm water and just like lay there and the floor is all inflated and it's just so nice. It's like a big cloud with warm water. I was like dying for that. In fact, I think I kept asking them like, when can I get in the pool? When can I get in the pool? But they say sometimes, my midwives told me that if you get in too soon, it can kind of slow things down. So they didn't want that to happen. So we wanted to wait till I got to a certain point. So they told me it was okay for me to get in the pool for a bit. So I did that and I was in the pool just having contractions in the pool for a long time. They kept checking baby's heart rate, and at one point they checked baby's heart rate and it had dropped a tiny bit. Not like anything to be super worried about, but it had dropped a tiny bit. So they told me to just get out of the pool, you might be getting a little bit too warm. So I got out of the pool for a bit, and that sucked because like the only place I wanted to be was in the pool. But at this point they said, let's check you again and see where you're at. I was like, okay, check again. So they checked again and I was 9.5 centimeters. And honestly, like every story I've ever heard and everything I've ever read says like transition is the absolute worst. But I could not tell. Maybe it's because of the pool, honestly, and I was like so relaxed in the pool and it was just so nice to be in the water, but I couldn't tell when I was in transition. Like I could not tell. So for me, that wasn't the worst part. I was definitely having super painful contractions. I will not like dumb down the pain for you guys at all. Like the contractions were the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. But you go through one, you breathe through it, and you just think, okay, just all I'm doing right now is getting through this contraction. Don't worry about how many are coming next. Don't worry about how painful they're going to be. Just focus on the one that you're in. So one thing I did forget to mention, back up a little bit, is between the time that I was like 5.5 to 9.5 centimeters, I had terrible back labor. That might have been the worst part for me, honestly. The back labor was so bad, and I remember my sister and Mike having to take turns like rubbing my lower back because I was asking them to push so hard on my back. The back labor was really intense for sure, but it didn't last the whole time. I would say it lasted like, I don't know, maybe 3 hours or something, 3 or 4 hours. So fast forward again, I'm at 9.5 centimeters and my water still has not broken. So my water never broke before I went into labor. My water never broke during this whole labor. So basically they ask me if I want to have my water broken by them or if I want to just kind of keep going and see where things get to. And if it doesn't break on its own in the next little bit, they should break it for me so we can keep progressing. In my mind, I was like, yes, progression, like moving forward, getting to the end result, get the baby out. So at this point, I was like, I need to get this baby out. So I was like, break my water, please, and thank you. Something that I had not planned for before was to have my water broken. I just was kind of trying to let things go as naturally as possible. But at this point, when I'm 9.5 centimeters, I want the baby out. I've been doing this all day. I was like, yes, please break my water. I think it was probably 9 p.m. at this time, around 9 p.m. So they broke my water and they told me to get back in the pool, have some more contractions. I think they told me to try having some contractions standing up to try and push the baby down. But pretty much as soon as they broke my water, her head descended quite a lot. They could see, like, wow, her head is like right there. Like, you need to get in the pool and we're gonna prepare, like, just have your contractions until you start feeling pushy. And this is another thing that I was really advocating for, I guess you would say, is to not have someone tell me when to push, but just to listen to my body. And when I was like, okay, I need to push, that's when I'm going to push, but not have someone tell me to push too soon. So I got back in the pool and it wasn't long before I was like, okay, I feel like I need to push. Like, I was like, I feel pushy, like for real. So then I basically, with each contraction that came, I started pushing, and that is hard work. Like, I remember my whole entire body like tensing up, and the next day after I gave birth, I was so sore, like all over my arms, everything, because it's like the greatest workout of your whole entire life. All my muscles were like so tensed up and so sore. So anyways, I started pushing and I ended up switching positions in the tub a couple times just to try and get like the best position for getting the baby out and then being able to see what we were doing and stuff like that. I think I pushed for 30 to 45 minutes. that was another one thing that I was like kind of worried about, is just pushing forever and nothing happening. But I had it in my mind, just like progression, moving forward, the baby's coming down, the baby's coming out, you know, all that stuff they tell you to say to yourself when you're giving birth. I was thinking all of it for sure. Yeah, and I mean, the ring of fire is real. It's crazy, it's painful, it's an experience, but it's absolutely nothing that you can't do. Like, this is what your body is designed to do. This is what it's built to do. Like, your body knows what to do. And it's so funny because I read that over and over again, like, your body knows what to do, your body knows what to do. But until you're actually in the moment, like, I had no control over what was happening. Like, my body was doing it for me. My body was pushing. My body told me when to push, when to not push, like all that stuff. So if you're stressed about that, knowing what to do, because I'm a first-time mom, this was my first time, I didn't know what to do, but your body knows what to do, because this is what it was meant to do. I just listened to my body. That's why I didn't want to have to push too soon. I didn't want anyone telling me like, okay, you need to push now. Like, I was just listening to my body 100%, and the midwives kind of knew like that was my plan, and that was what I was wanting, so they didn't push me in any way, which was amazing. Yeah, so I pushed for probably 30 to 45 minutes, and it was really amazing. Just like, I could see her coming out. Sorry if this is TMI for anyone. I could see her, Mike could see her. We were all watching her come out, do her thing into the world. It was awesome. It was like crazy. It was amazing. It was just like such an experience. And then she came out, which was like the biggest relief of my entire life. If you know that feeling of like when you finally, the baby's finally out and you're just like, oh my God, I'm like a million weights just come off your shoulders. Yeah, that's what it felt like. So that was definitely the biggest relief. And it's so crazy. Like, as soon as the baby comes out, well, for me anyway, as soon as she came out, like, there was no pain. Like, there was no pain. Like, sure, there's recovery that needs to happen, and there's postpartum pains and discomforts and stuff, but like all that pain all day, I was feeling it, and then the baby's out, and it's just like the biggest relief. And I could have forgot, honestly, I could have forgot everything that just happened, like all the pain. So amazing. They laid her on my chest, and we were still in the pool. She came out screaming, which is good because she was healthy and like there, alert, very alert. So they laid her on my chest, and me and Mike just kind of like snuggled her for a little bit. And then it was probably like a few minutes, maybe a couple minutes after they laid her on my chest, we were like, wait, is it a girl or a boy? Because we didn't know this whole time. Like, we chose to have it be a surprise, which was so amazing and fun. And we kind of like picked her up and looked, and it was a girl, and we were like, oh my gosh, it's a girl, you know, like all the first time parents excitement and stuff like that. So that was really awesome. So from this part on, I remember laying with her in the pool for quite a while, just having like the skin to skin for a long time. I remember Mike cutting the cord and not doing it quite properly, and they're like, no, you need to like cut it here. So we had to kind of like do it again. And then I remember getting out of the pool, them asking me to get out of the pool. They passed the baby to Mike. He was holding her for the first time, so sweet. I got out of the pool onto the bed, because we were in my bedroom this whole time. I don't think I ever said that. So I got out of the pool onto my bed, which we had like the plastic and everything laid down in case I did end up having her on the bed. And that's when they're just basically doing the, what do they do next? They do like the tummy. Oh, you birthed the placenta. Like, what happens next? You birthed the placenta, which I was also really stressed about and worried about, because I just was like, after you push a baby out, you have to push something else out. But honestly, it just kind of comes out. Like, that's what everyone says, but it really does. It's like a squishy thing. It's not hard. It's after having a baby, it feels very easy. So that happened, and then they basically, okay, this part, definitely uncomfortable and definitely not one of my favorite memories. So the tummy massage, if you guys have given birth and you know the tummy massage, they basically like massage your tummy really freaking hard to try and just push any excess out, try to get like all the extra stuff, fluids and stuff out of your tummy. So the tummy massage was painful after just having given birth, but again, it's only like a minute maybe, so it's nothing you can't do again. And then after that, they kind of just examined me, checked everything out. I did end up needing to get like 2 stitches, I think. So basically she said I didn't need to get them, but that it would just kind of help things heal a little bit. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it, you know. May as well, we're here, you're here, I'm here, let's just get it done. So she gave me the stitches. And that, honestly, another thing I was worried about was stitches afterwards. Like, that's got to be painful, and it is painful for sure, but you've just given birth, you feel like Wonder Woman. You're like, I can do anything. So yeah, I had that probably took, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, not a super long time, and I was holding the baby the whole time, so I was so distracted with her, just like looking at her and all that stuff. And yeah, so I honestly I wasn't too bothered by the stitches, although they were painful. And then that was over, and you know, you get into your adult diaper and get all cozy. Honestly, the best part about the whole home birth situation was just getting into bed with me and Mike and holding our baby. And I ended up giving birth at 10:01 p.m. I don't know if I ever said that. So I started at 8 a.m. I gave birth at 10, so it was the whole day. Woke up, did the birth thing, did the labor, had the baby, went to bed. It was like perfect timing. Like, I couldn't have dreamed it up any better. So I was in labor for about 12 hours. I would actually say my labor started more at like 10 a.m. So I was in labor for about 12 hours. I was in active labor for only 3 hours. I think it worked out to be. So it was actually pretty fast. Like, for a first time, like, it was actually pretty quickly, and I was only pushing for 30-ish minutes. So that all was good. It all went really good, I would say. But yeah, that's my birth story. Honestly, like, it was a really great experience. I will not lie. Like, I know people say that and you're like, how can giving birth be a great experience? But it was a great experience. Like, it really was. It was one of my favorite memories. There was nothing bad that happened. I was really obviously lucky. There was nothing traumatic that happened. It was just a great experience, and I would do it again a million times. I honestly loved giving birth. Like, you feel like you're on top of the world, and it wasn't like a week later I couldn't even remember how painful it was. Like, people would ask me like, oh, it must have been so painful, because I was kind of the first one out of my group of friends, or one of the first ones to have a baby. So they like ask questions and stuff like, oh, it must have been so painful, and I was like, yeah, it was, but honestly, like, I don't remember. Your mind honestly just like blocks it out. So yeah, it was a great experience overall. I worked really hard my whole pregnancy to kind of like prepare myself mentally and just like everything to have this birth and to have it go the way I wanted to, while also being flexible to knowing that it might go a totally different way. And that's like a whole other video if you guys are interested in what I did to prepare, all the little old wives' tales that I followed to prepare for this and stuff like that. That's a whole other video that I would totally do if you guys are interested. But I just wanted to share kind of my birth story and have it on video and get it out there, because it's so important to share your positive birth stories. It's so important. I thrived off positive birth stories when I was pregnant. I listened to all the positive birth stories. I actually didn't tell a lot of people that I was having a home birth. Like, I told my friends, I told my family, obviously. I didn't announce that I was having a home birth on social media. I didn't really talk about it at all on social media, I don't think. And that was simply for the reason that I didn't want people's negative opinions, and they're gonna come in whether people mean them in a negative way or not, especially with something like home birth, which is so kind of like just a personal choice that is maybe not as popular. I didn't really announce it to a whole lot of people. I just was like, I'm gonna fill my head with positivity about this. I don't need to hear people's negative opinions or about their home birth that didn't work or anything like that. Like, of course, it's good to be aware of that stuff and know that, like, if you end up going to the hospital, you end up going to the hospital. And I was so okay with that in my head. I was like, whatever happens, happens. Whatever's meant to be is meant to be. Like, if we go to the hospital, that is totally 100% okay. But I'm planning in my head to have her at home. So that was one tip, is that I just filled my head with positive birth stories and didn't let other people's opinions kind of like persuade me. If you guys are wondering like why I decided to have a home birth, I kind of always in the back of my head wanted to, but I didn't know a lot about it and didn't have any plans to have a baby like anytime too soon. So I just wasn't, it's like in the back of my mind, it was like maybe a home birth one day, you know? And then I got pregnant and I kind of started looking more into it, talking to friends and stuff like that. My sister had actually had 2 home births, and I knew probably at least 3 or 4 friends that had home births. So where I live, it's maybe a little bit more common than other parts of the world for sure, but just because I had known people who had done it themselves and they raved about it and stuff, it made me more motivated to want to do it and be like, okay, I can do that too. I remember reading in one of the books, like the positive birth books that I was reading, I remember reading this one statement that said, the safest place for you to give birth, if you're having a normal, healthy pregnancy with no complications, the safest place for you to give birth is wherever you're the most comfortable. And right away I was like, the water, because I'm such a water baby. I'm most relaxed when I'm in the bath or in the lake or anything. Like, I'm such a water person. It's just like part of me. So for sure I knew I wanted to have a water birth. And then it got me thinking, like, I'm really not comfortable at hospitals. Maternity ward and everything is amazing, and the nurses are amazing, and they make you feel as comfortable as possible. I'm 100% sure about that because I know people obviously who've done it that way. But for me, I was like, I'm honestly like the most comfortable at home. Like, I totally am in the water at home. Like, that would be a dream. So for me, I knew that the best place for me to give birth was at home, just because that's what I was familiar with. I would have all my stuff. I would be in my own space. I could have it kind of however I wanted and have whoever I wanted. And it just, to me, that sounded like what I wanted to do. That is totally 100% not going to be for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and it doesn't matter how or where or with what means you bring the baby into the world. The end goal is bringing the baby into the world, and that's going to happen. And I just kind of knew what I wanted, but also was open to things having to go a different way, because at the end of the day, the medical professionals are the professionals and they know what's best. But you also know what's best for you. But obviously getting the baby into the world safely and healthy is the most important thing. So however that has to happen, even if your birth didn't go exactly the way that you wanted it to, if you got the baby into the world and they were safe and they were healthy, like, that is the goal. So if you are watching this as someone who's expecting a baby, don't be nervous. Just, your body knows what to do. And I know that it's a scary experience, especially if it's your first time, but I promise that your body knows what to do. That's the most important thing I can tell you. Anyways, that's my birth story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's just me sitting here talking, and I kind of went off on a rant a couple times, I'm sure, but that's me sometimes. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. If this gave you some sort of like motivation or like perseverance, or just to know in the back of your head that you can do it or you can have the birth that you want, leave me a comment down below so I know that I inspired at least one person to just kind of like, that you don't have to have the birth that you see on movies. That is a lot of times very unrealistic. You can have the birth that you want, and it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience at all. It can be an amazing experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you're not already, be sure to click the little red button and subscribe to our new channel. Okay, I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!